He hadn't called me in years, not a single birthday, not even when I was hospitalized. Then suddenly, on Thanksgiving, the man who once called me mom showed up in a luxury car, wearing a smile I didn't recognize and asked a question that shattered me: "How's the lake house?" I froze, because there was no lake house. He gave me nothing. Make sure you watch till the very end, and comment the city you're watching from. I want to see how far my story travels. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more unbelievable stories. On Thanksgiving morning, the small apartment I called home felt colder than usual, even with the heater humming softly in the background. The usual humdrum of daily life seemed heavier today, weighed down by the absence of family I once thought I'd always have close. I stood in the kitchen, peeling potatoes with slow, methodical strokes, the worn knife feeling rough against my fingers. The scent of rosemary and thyme filled the air as I prepared the turkey stuffing, but there was no warmth in my heart. The years had been long and lonely, and the silence between me and my son Ethan had stretched into a chasm too wide to cross. Ethan. My son, the man who had climbed the rungs of success to become a billionaire, a titan in the tech world, yet a stranger in my life. Our relationship had been strained ever since he moved away to chase his dreams, and though I had always hoped to bridge the distance, time and silence had eroded those hopes. He was the reason I lived modestly in this tiny apartment, surviving on a government pension and occasional charity, careful with every penny. I had watched his name flash across the news, his companies making headlines, his face gracing glossy magazine covers, while I remained invisible, a ghost in his grand narrative. The room was filled with the soft clatter of pots and pans, mingling with the distant sounds of city life beyond the cracked window. I glanced at the calendar pinned above the stove: Thanksgiving Day. A day traditionally meant for family, for togetherness. Yet for me, it was a reminder of what had been lost. I had invited Ethan to join me for dinner, hopeful but realistic, knowing he was a man with a world demanding his attention. Our last conversation had been brief, a few awkward sentences exchanged over the phone months ago, fading into silence after. As I arranged the tablecloth, a faded, floral print passed down from my mother, I thought about the years slipping away. I had raised Ethan on my own after his father left when he was just a boy. I remembered the nights I stayed up late, helping him with homework, the quiet pride I felt watching him grow into the man he was becoming. But somewhere along the way, the distance grew. Financial struggles, his rising career, my declining health all seemed to pull us apart. Now, I was left with memories and a fragile hope that maybe, just maybe, this Thanksgiving would be different. The doorbell rang sharply, cutting through the quiet. My heart skipped. I wasn't expecting anyone. Standing in the doorway was a tall man, impeccably dressed, with a confident smile that seemed almost unfamiliar. Ethan. It was him. My son, standing before me, more polished and successful looking than I had imagined in person. "Mom," he said, his voice steady but soft, "Happy Thanksgiving." I swallowed hard, emotions swirling inside me, surprise, disbelief, and a flicker of joy. "Ethan," I managed, my voice catching. You came." He stepped inside, removing his coat with a practiced ease, and scanned the modest apartment. "It's been too long," he said quietly. "I wanted to come home." For a moment, we just stood there, two people separated by years in silence, trying to find common ground. The air was thick with unspoken words, regrets, and hope. As I led him to the table, my hands trembling slightly, I noticed how different he looked: successful, confident, yet somehow distant. "I've been watching you from afar," I admitted, breaking the silence. "I'm proud of everything you've done, but it's hard when you disappear." Ethan nodded. "I know. I've made mistakes. But I want to fix things." The conversation was tentative but real, like two strangers trying to remember how to be family. There was an underlying tension, a fragile hope that this meal might be the first step toward something new. As we sat down to eat, I caught a glimpse of the man my son had become, the billionaire who had built an empire, yet still carried the weight of our fractured past. The smell of the turkey filled the room, mingling with the scent of memories and the possibility of forgiveness. The day stretched on with cautious conversation, stories exchanged, and moments of awkward laughter. Yet beneath it all, a quiet understanding began to take root. Despite the years apart, despite the walls we had built, maybe this Thanksgiving would be the start of something more. And as the evening shadows lengthened outside the window, I found myself daring to hope that the distance between us could be bridged, that the son I had lost to ambition and time might finally come home. The Thanksgiving meal had barely settled in our stomachs when Ethan leaned back in his chair, a trace of something unreadable in his eyes. The warmth from the turkey and the quiet hum of the city outside mingled with a strange tension between us. It was then that he casually dropped a question that caught me entirely off guard. "Did you like the lake house I gave you?" he asked, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of expectation. I blinked, confusion flooding my senses. Lake house? Ethan, I don't understand. I never received a lake house. My hands clenched the edge of the table, a sudden chill crawling up my spine. What are you talking about? He looked at me, genuinely perplexed now, as if he'd expected a different answer. Mom, I've been trying to help for years. The lake house has been yours since 2 years ago. I thought you knew. The room seemed to tilt, the walls closing in as my mind raced. A lake house. I had never seen it, never heard of such a gift. The idea felt surreal, almost like a cruel joke. How could Ethan have given me something so significant, and I remained completely in the dark? For years, I had been scraping by, counting pennies, struggling to pay rent, while he spoke of generosity I never saw. Ethan, I'm sorry, but I've never received any house from you. No letters, no bills, no visits, nothing. I don't even know where this lake house is. My voice shook, betraying my frustration and bewilderment. Why would you think I knew about it? He sighed, rubbing his forehead as if wrestling with an invisible burden. I thought I'd told you. I sent documents, signed papers, everything. I even asked your lawyer to contact you. My brow furrowed, the mention of a lawyer was new to me. I had no lawyer. I had no knowledge of any legal dealings. Ethan, I don't have a lawyer. No one has contacted me. I've been living here, struggling every day. How could all of this have happened without me knowing? The silence that followed was heavy. Ethan's eyes searched mine, pleading for understanding. I don't know what went wrong, Mom. I was trying to do something good, something to help you. The lake house was supposed to be a fresh start for you. I wanted to surprise you today, but now I see it's more complicated. I looked at him, the son I had raised, the man who had built an empire, now tangled in a web of confusion and disappointment. Ethan, if this is true, then someone has kept me in the dark. I've been living hand to mouth, while you thought I was taken care of. He nodded slowly. I want to get to the bottom of this. I'm sorry you've been left out of the loop. Let's find out what happened together. For the first time in years, a flicker of hope sparked within me. Maybe this was the beginning of uncovering the truth, of bridging the distance between us. Ethan pulled out his phone and began scrolling through messages and emails, searching for any clue that could explain the mystery. Minutes passed like hours as we sifted through digital correspondence, emails from lawyers I didn't know, letters with my name on them that I'd never received, and documents referencing the lake house property. Each discovery deepened the puzzle, revealing layers of bureaucracy and miscommunication. Here, Ethan said, pointing to an email dated 6 months ago. This is from the law firm handling the transfer. They say they mailed you the paperwork to sign, but it was returned as undeliverable. My heart sank. I never received anything. I don't even know which law firm this is. He frowned. I thought they had your current address. Maybe someone intercepted the mail. The thought sent a shiver down my spine. Who would want to keep me from receiving something meant for me? Who stood to gain from this silence? Ethan's phone buzzed, breaking the tension. He glanced at it and frowned again. It's from the law firm's office. They're saying they tried to reach you by phone but got no answer. I shook my head. No one ever called me. I've been alone in this apartment, waiting and hoping for contact. Ethan's jaw tightened. This isn't right. Someone's been blocking communication. The room felt colder now, the air heavy with suspicion. I looked at Ethan, feeling a mix of gratitude and sorrow. Thank you for coming back, for trying to fix this. But it scares me. What else don't I know? He reached across the table and took my hand gently. We'll figure it out, Mom. Together. In the days that followed, Ethan and I began a quiet investigation. We contacted the law firm, followed up on the property records, and tried to trace every document that had been sent my way. Each step uncovered more questions than answers. The lake house was real, a charming cottage by a serene lake 2 hours from the city, but according to public records, the deed was in my name, yet I had never set foot there. Ethan explained that he had purchased it 2 years prior, intending it as a sanctuary for me, a place to escape the hardships of the city. He had arranged for the transfer to be seamless, thinking the legal process was straightforward. But paperwork had apparently gone astray, and no one had informed me. I couldn't help but wonder about the people around us. Who was responsible for the lost mail, the unanswered calls? Was it negligence, or something more deliberate? One afternoon, as we reviewed the latest batch of documents, Ethan's phone rang. He glanced at the screen and then looked up, eyes darkening. It's the property manager at the lake house, he said. They've been maintaining the house but never had contact with you. I nodded slowly. So someone else has the keys, but I don't. Ethan's frustration grew. This isn't just a simple oversight. Someone's been keeping you away from what's yours. The days turned into weeks as we pieced together the tangled threads of this mystery. I was caught between disbelief and cautious hope. The lake house was a gift I never knew I had, a symbol of Ethan's love and a promise of a new beginning, yet shrouded in secrecy. Through it all, our conversations grew more frequent, more personal. The walls between us, built from years of distance and silence, began to crumble. Ethan shared stories of his struggles, of the loneliness that accompanied success. I confessed my fears and the pain of being forgotten. That Thanksgiving, what began as a simple meal transformed into an unfolding story of hidden gifts, lost connections, and the fragile hope of reconciliation. The lake house was more than just a property, it was a key to rebuilding the bridge between a mother and her son, a secret waiting to be unveiled. The revelations about the lake house hung heavily between us, like a fragile thread stretched taut over a vast distance. Ethan's eyes, usually so confident and controlled, now flickered with a mix of regret and vulnerability I hadn't seen before. It was in that moment, as the late afternoon sun cast golden light through the window, that he finally opened up, not just about the house, but about the years of silence that had kept us apart. Mom, he began, voice low and hesitant, I've been wanting to reconnect for a long time. After I left for college, everything changed. I thought I was doing the right thing by focusing on my work, trying to build something that would make us proud. But I realize now how much I pushed you away. I looked at him, the walls of resentment I had built over the years crumbling slowly. Ethan, I never stopped hoping you'd come back. But when I didn't hear from you, when letters went unanswered, I felt invisible. It was like I was fading into the background of your life. He nodded, swallowing hard. I'm sorry. I was caught up in my world, and I thought I was protecting you from the chaos. I didn't realize I was hurting you instead. There was a pause, weighted with years of unspoken pain. Then Ethan took a deep breath and continued. The lake house was supposed to be a fresh start for you, a place to escape the struggles you faced here. I bought it 2 years ago, hoping it would be a surprise. I arranged everything through a lawyer, thinking the transfer would be seamless. But then complications arose. I leaned forward, eager to hear the truth. What kind of complications? Ethan's expression darkened. There were legal issues with the title. Some paperwork was incomplete, and the transfer got delayed. I thought the lawyer was handling it all, but apparently, the communication broke down somewhere. I was frustrated, but I never intended to keep you in the dark. The pieces began to fit together, but questions remained. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why was I left out of all this? He looked away, conflicted. I don't know. I've been trying to find out. There may have been miscommunications, maybe mistakes by the law firm, or worse, someone preventing the transfer for reasons I don't yet understand. I felt a surge of anger mixed with sorrow. For years, I had struggled alone, unaware that my son had tried to help me. The betrayal wasn't just from those who withheld information, it was from the distance that grew between us, the silence that allowed misunderstandings to fester. Ethan reached across the table, his hand covering mine. I want to fix this, Mom. I want you to have the house, and I want us to rebuild our relationship. No more secrets or distance. I nodded slowly, tears pricking my eyes. I want that too, Ethan. But it's going to take time. He smiled, a flicker of the sun I once knew shining through. We'll take it one step at a time. In the days that followed, Ethan and I began untangling the web of legal complications. We contacted the law firm again, pressed for answers, and uncovered a series of missteps. The lawyer responsible had mishandled the case, failed to notify me properly, and had even ignored messages from Ethan. There was no conspiracy, just negligence that had cost me dearly. But there was more. As we dug deeper, Ethan uncovered correspondence suggesting that someone close to me, a distant relative who had been handling some of my mail, might have deliberately withheld documents. The thought stung, adding another layer of betrayal to the already fragile situation. I never imagined anyone would do this, I whispered, heart heavy. Someone I trusted. Ethan's jaw tightened. We need to confront this. You deserve to know the truth. Together, we confronted the relative, who admitted to intercepting mail, claiming it was to protect me from complications they thought I couldn't handle. Their misguided intentions had caused years of confusion and pain. The confrontation was painful but necessary. It cleared the air and allowed Ethan and me to move forward, united in our goal to reclaim what was rightfully mine. As the legal hurdles slowly cleared, Ethan and I found ourselves talking more openly than we had in years. We shared stories from our separate lives, his challenges in the ruthless business world, my struggles to stay afloat on a meager income. The walls between us crumbled, replaced by understanding and compassion. One evening, as we sat on my threadbare couch, Ethan opened up about his isolation despite his wealth. Success has been lonely, Mom. I built a company, but I lost touch with what truly matters. I thought money could fix everything, but it can't buy family. I smiled softly, feeling a warmth I hadn't known in years. Family is messy and complicated, Ethan, but it's worth fighting for. He nodded, eyes shining with sincerity. I'm ready to fight. In that moment, the lake house became more than just a property, it was a symbol of our renewed bond, a fresh start born from years of misunderstanding and pain. Ethan reached into his pocket and pulled out a worn photograph, a picture of us from my son's childhood, when laughter filled the air and hope was all we needed. We'll make new memories, Mom. Starting now. I took the photo, tears spilling freely. Yes, starting now. Though the path ahead was uncertain, we had taken the first crucial step, opening our hearts and facing the truth together. The lake house was no longer just a distant dream, it was a promise of healing, forgiveness, and the possibility of a future where we could finally be mother and son again. The following weeks were a whirlwind of phone calls, paperwork, and unexpected moments of connection. Ethan and I worked side by side to untangle the bureaucratic knots that had kept me from the lake house, our collaboration slowly eroding the distance that had long separated us. Each phone call to the law firm became a small victory, each signed document a tangible step toward reclaiming what had been intended for me all along. One afternoon, as I sat at my cluttered kitchen table reviewing yet another stack of forms, Ethan appeared in the doorway holding a folder. His smile was tentative but genuine. Good news, he said, placing the folder in front of me. The title's finally being transferred into your name. It's official. I looked down at the papers, the weight of their significance sinking in. The lake house, once a mere whisper in our conversations, was now mine in the eyes of the law. A surge of relief washed over me, mingled with disbelief. After years of hardship and uncertainty, this tangible piece of security was finally within reach. It feels surreal, I admitted, glancing up at Ethan. Like a dream I wasn't sure I'd ever wake up from. He nodded, his eyes reflecting a mix of pride and newfound closeness. You deserve this, Mom. I want you to have a place where you can find peace. The process was far from over, though. Arranging the transfer had uncovered layers of neglect and miscommunication, but it also revealed the barriers that had kept us apart emotionally. As we navigated the legal labyrinth, we found ourselves confronting the unspoken grievances that had festered over the years. One evening, after a particularly long day of calls and emails, Ethan and I sat together on my worn couch, the silence between us heavy but no longer uncomfortable. I took a deep breath, breaking the quiet. I've held on to a lot of hurt, Ethan. Not just about the house, but about feeling forgotten. He reached out, squeezing my hand gently. I know. I've felt that too, the distance, the silence. I thought success would make things easier, but it only made the gaps wider. We talked then, not as a billionaire and a struggling mother, but as two people trying to heal. I told him about the nights I stayed awake, worrying about his safety and happiness. He shared his fears of never being enough, of losing the family he once had. The walls between us crumbled with every word, replaced by a fragile trust. The lake house, once just a symbol of material security, became a beacon of hope for our relationship. Ethan began making plans to visit the property together, to prepare it for me and to create new memories where old wounds could finally begin to heal. But as we worked to reclaim the house, we also faced the reality of the years lost. Rebuilding our bond required patience and understanding, as well as forgiveness for mistakes made on both sides. One afternoon, while going through old photographs, Ethan stumbled upon a picture of us from my son's childhood, two smiling faces frozen in time. We've come a long way, he said softly. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. And we still have so far to go. Together, we decided to take it one day at a time, embracing the challenges and opportunities ahead. The lake house was no longer just a property, it was a shared journey toward reconciliation and renewal. In the quiet moments between paperwork and phone calls, I began to see a different side of Ethan, the son I had raised, flawed but sincere, eager to make amends. And he began to see me not as a distant figure from his past, but as a woman strong enough to forgive and hopeful enough to trust again. As the legal process moved forward, we both felt the weight of the past lifting, replaced by the promise of a future where family meant more than distance and silence. The lake house was not just a gift, it was a bridge, connecting us across years of separation and pain. One crisp autumn afternoon, Ethan and I stood together on the porch of the lake house for the first time. The view stretched out before us, calm waters reflecting the fiery hues of fall, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. The house, though in need of some care, held the promise of new beginnings. He turned to me, a smile breaking across his face. Welcome home, Mom. I took a deep breath, the cool air filling my lungs, and smiled back. Thank you, Ethan. For everything. In that moment, surrounded by the beauty of the lake and the warmth of a son's love, I felt the first true sense of belonging in years. The journey to this point had been fraught with pain and uncertainty, but it had also revealed the resilience of family and the power of forgiveness. As we stepped inside the house together, I knew that this was just the beginning, a new chapter filled with hope, healing, and the chance to finally build the life I had always dreamed of. The lake house stood quietly by the water's edge, its weathered porch creaking slightly beneath my feet as I took in the crisp morning air. This place, once just a vague promise from Ethan, was now mine, a tangible symbol of change and hope. As I walked through the rooms, I could almost hear the echoes of laughter and life waiting to be breathed back into these walls. The scent of pine from the surrounding forest mingled with the faint musk of aged wood, welcoming me into a new chapter one was finally ready to embrace. Ethan had been instrumental in making this moment possible, yet there was no grand fanfare, just two people quietly sharing the promise of a fresh start. He had spent the past few months helping me settle in, arranging repairs, and introducing me to neighbors who greeted me with warmth and curiosity. For the first time in years, I felt the steady pulse of community and belonging. Sitting on the porch one afternoon, I watched the sun dip low, casting golden hues across the lake's surface. The quiet lapping of water against the shore filled the space between us as Ethan joined me with 2 mugs of steaming tea. We sat side by side, the silence comfortable and reassuring. "I'm glad you're here," he said softly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. I smiled, feeling a swell of gratitude. "Me too. It's more than I ever imagined." Our conversations had grown deeper and more frequent since the house became mine. We shared stories of the past, his triumphs and struggles in building his empire, my years of quiet endurance, and began weaving new memories together. The lake house was not just a refuge, it was a canvas on which we could paint a renewed relationship. One afternoon, as I unpacked boxes in the cozy living room, Ethan suggested bringing over some old family photos. As we sorted through faded images, I was struck by how much time had passed and how much we had both changed. Yet, in those snapshots, I saw the unbroken thread of love that had always connected us, even when silence had tried to sever it. "You know," Ethan said, holding up a picture of us from my son's childhood, "I've been thinking about writing to your family, my grandparents. They never knew you well, but maybe it's time to reach out." The idea surprised me. "Do you think they'd want to hear from me?" He nodded. "I think they'd be happy to know you're doing well. It could help us all heal." I considered the possibility. Reconnecting with my extended family felt daunting yet hopeful, a chance to fill in the gaps and build bridges where walls had stood. "Maybe you're right. I'd like that." As the weeks turned to months, I found myself growing more confident and at peace. The lake house became a sanctuary not only from the hardships of the past but also a place where I could envision the future. I planted flowers in the garden, took up painting again, and even hosted a small gathering of neighbors who welcomed me into their fold. Ethan and I continued to navigate the complexities of our renewed bond, sometimes stumbling but always moving forward. He shared more about his new relationship with a woman who understood his past, and I found myself genuinely happy for him. Our conversations no longer skirted the edges of pain but ventured into the territory of hope and possibility. One chilly evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Ethan turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Mom, you've been through so much. I want to make sure you're taken care of, not just now, but for the future." I placed my hand over his, touched by his sincerity. "You've already given me more than I ever expected." "Thank you." The lake house had become more than a gift, it was a testament to resilience and the power of reconciliation. It reminded me that while the past could not be changed, the future was ours to shape. As I looked out the window at the stars shimmering above the dark lake, I felt a quiet strength settling within me. The journey had been difficult, but it had led me here, to a place of peace, belonging, and renewed family ties. In this new chapter, I was determined to embrace every moment, knowing that forgiveness and love could rebuild even the most fractured bonds. The lake house was not just a home, it was a symbol of transformation and the enduring hope that family, no matter how broken, could heal. And as I prepared for the coming days, I carried with me the lessons learned, the importance of openness, the courage to forgive, and the unwavering belief that it's never too late to find your way back to those you love. A year had passed since I first stepped onto the porch of the lake house, a place that had once been just a whispered promise between me and Ethan, and now had become the heart of my life. The cold winters had thawed into warm springs, the seasons changing as surely as the tides of our relationship. Sitting here today, wrapped in a soft blanket against the gentle breeze, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me from uncertainty to this place of peace. I had retired from my job at last, leaving behind the years of scrimping and struggling that had defined so much of my life. The lake house, once a symbol of confusion and lost opportunities, was now my sanctuary. The community had embraced me, neighbors stopping by with freshly baked bread, invitations to local events, and the kind of companionship that had once seemed out of reach. Each day, I woke with a sense of gratitude, savoring the simple pleasures of quiet mornings by the water and evenings spent reading by the fire. My relationship with Ethan had transformed in ways I had only dared hope for. The distance that had stretched between us for so long had been replaced by openness and trust. We talked regularly, sharing not only the details of our lives but the emotions we'd kept locked away for years. He told me about his new partner, a woman who understood his past and cheered him on, and I felt a genuine happiness for him that was unburdened by old resentments. Our Thanksgiving dinners were no longer fraught with tension but filled with laughter and warmth. The lake house had become a place where our family found new roots, where forgiveness wasn't just a word but a practice we lived every day. Sometimes, I thought about writing to Ethan's grandparents, reaching out to the family I had never truly known. The idea still lingered, a quiet hope that one day, those bridges might be crossed as well. Victoria, my daughter-in-law who had once cast a shadow over our lives, was now a chapter firmly closed. The legal battles had been painful, uncovering the layers of deceit she had woven. But justice had been served, and though the scars remained, they no longer held the power to define me. I chose peace instead, focusing on the present and the future. Sitting here, watching the sun dip beneath the horizon, I marveled at how far I had come. From a woman struggling alone in a cramped apartment, rationing medication and guarding every penny, to someone who now owned a beautiful home filled with light and love. The lake house had given me more than shelter, it had given me a second chance. I thought about the lessons this journey had taught me: resilience in the face of hardship, the courage to forgive, and the profound importance of genuine connections. Life had a way of testing us, breaking us down before offering the pieces to build something stronger. Ethan once told me that success was lonely, that wealth couldn't buy the family he craved. I had learned that love and forgiveness were the true riches, treasures that no amount of money could replace. As the stars began to twinkle in the darkening sky, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The lake house stood quietly beside the shimmering water, a testament to healing and hope. The future stretched out before me, not without challenges, but filled with promise. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my family. And in that reclamation, I discovered a strength I hadn't known I possessed. The past might have shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I chose peace. I chose to live fully. And I was determined to do just that. If you loved the story, like the video and subscribe.